It's Paul Marsh, and I'm delighted to say that I've been joined by comedian Melanie Bracewell. Melanie, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing so well. I just had a tofu rice bowl, so that's just got me excited for the interview.
Well, that's one way to pump yourself up for an interview, isn't it?
Yes, I have to carb load before chatting to you. I've been told.
How are you? How's England? How cold are you?
Oh, I've gone and I had a puffer jacket. I left it on the train. That was the first mistake, and so I had to go to Uniqlo. Although I kind of feel like it was destiny because I actually someone left that puffer jacket at my house and they never claimed it. And so I had a free puffer jacket. And then when I left it on the train, it just felt like this beautiful moment that someone else will find the puffer jacket and they'll have it's like the sisterhood of the traveling pants.
I love
And
that.
it's beautiful. So now I have my own new puffer jacket in the hopes that I don't leave. I don't want to lose this one. It won't be destiny. Yes.
You've been in the UK, I want to say a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks in the UK. I have done some pretty it's been quite eclectic my tour schedule. So I've done I started in Manchester, and then I was doing Wellingborough, which chatting to my UK mates, they were like, "Where is that?" So I'm doing a bunch of different spots around the UK, some of which people would have heard of, and some which people have never heard of.
No, but I love that. I think that's great because, and I understand why, but a lot of people, when they come to the UK, London, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, all the usuals. And I get it and I understand it. But I think it's really, really nice when people come over and go and do the long version, the long way round, and go and do some of the small places.
Yeah, and it's actually been really nice those smaller shows because London it's sold out and that's great and it's probably I'm coming all the way across the world and performing in front of probably 95% Australians and Kiwis and that is nice, but it is weird to travel all this way and perform to people you're probably related to. Whereas these smaller towns, I've been chatting to people after the shows and they were like, you know what? I just opened up the local paper and I saw there was something on and I decided to have a punt. And that's been such a nice thing to do. I'm not coming over here to win over people who already love me. It's nice to get the skeptics and give them a go.
Well, I think, do you know what? I think there is a lot of people. There was a big show, funny enough, at the Wedgwood Rooms in Portsmouth on Saturday night, where it was like a big, a local battle of the bands to get to perform at a festival sort of thing. And I was talking to people in the line for the queue, and they were telling me who they were here to see and who they wanted to win and all of that. And then I spoke to a couple of girls that were like, "No, we don't know any of them. We just wanted to come along and see a show."
Oh, it's you don't get that in New Zealand at all. You, people go, well, maybe door sales. Door sales aren't really a thing in New Zealand. People will either back you with all the faith in the world, or they will not give you a look in. So it's been really refreshing here, actually, meeting people who, just want to go out, get out of the house. I think it's lovely.
You're currently in the middle of a couple of days off, aren't you? What have you been doing with your time?
Ooh, it's top secret. I've been
Ah,
working at the spa, but I can probably just vaguely say panel shows, I
right.
guess.
Okay.
Then people
So,
can in a
so it's
year,
not
I guess,
it's
we'll
not
figure out which
actually
one.
been any time off, has it? You've taken a break from the tour, but you've been working.
Ah, yeah, I know, and it's actually quite wild because of the time difference as well. So I'll be ready to go to bed, and everyone in Australia and New Zealand are waking up. So I get about 4,000 emails at midnight. And
Uh,
I'm like, "Oh, I need to sign this thing, need to do this thing. But I love it. I do love staying busy. I think I would, not to be left alone with the thoughts. That's lovely. That's a dream.
this is not your first time to the UK, of course. How have you found it? How are you enjoying the UK?
Oh, I'm really loving it. And other people listening, if they are familiar with my work, will also be familiar with Ray O'Leary, who I toured with last time. He was one of my fellow Taskmaster New Zealand contestants. And what a dream to not have him around this time. Just a load off my mind and off my back. It's just, it's no, no. Ray was very lovely as a support person, but the man lives on a diet of, I would say, Gaviscon and Diet Coke. It's too much to deal with. So I feel like this time around. I've been a little healthier. I don't have him with a sleeve of Oreos in his pocket at all times. So I've tried to keep it more sort of well-rounded and healthy.
Can I give you a piece of advice? Now, the
Oh,
UK
absolutely.
doesn't have much of a summer, I'll be honest with you. But as somebody from New Zealand coming to the UK, coming in winter from your summer, probably not the best idea.
It's a form of self-harm, I think. It's it's interesting. I mean, I have a tough one because I do this show called The Cheap Seats in Australia, which I've been informed when I've been meeting people after the show that you guys here are pirating it illegally because we did a long thing
No.
about the royal family and the Queen and things like that, and it went a little bit viral over here because they were like, you would not be allowed to say those things or make those jokes on British television. So people you know, they find us edgy over here potentially. And so, yes, that's 30 weeks of my year in Australia. And because it's topical and we want to keep it really newsy, if I was to come during the summer, I would have to come and then fly back. And then on a Wednesday, I would have to fly here. And then I'd have to fly back on Monday. So this is kind of the only chunk that I can
Right.
dedicate to the UK. And I mean, there's heaters inside, guys. I'm not doing an outside gig. Come along, bring your puppers. But I did have that where I first came here in winter, and I thought a lot of my friends have moved here. I'm not sure why. And then when I did the Edinburgh Fringe and came to the UK in summertime, it was like a Disney movie, you know, the birds were chirping and it was like, oh my gosh, I'm in this beautiful fairy tale. I can see why people are here. So it must be such a roller coaster.
When we have that nice week of weather in July, England and the UK can be quite nice.
It was funny. I was like it was too much of a utopia. It felt like a joke compared to the last time I was there, and everyone was sort of rubbing their hands together on the train and not looking at one in the eyes. And then there's people out on the street going, you know, there's people playing music out on the street. It's beautiful.
Now, a while ago, I spoke to Felicity Ward and I spoke to Luke Kendall recently as well. Do you think that the UK and Australia and New Zealand have got a very similar sense of humour?
Yes, in the sense that when I did Edinburgh, I mean, sometimes you just don't know what the difference is until you perform. And so it's not even necessarily that it's wildly different. I would think that, like, if you were to do maybe this is a very nerdy way to describe this, if you were to do a graph of the laughs in the show in terms of volume, I would say it would look similar, but some things would just sort of shift around. And so some things that like don't get as big of a pop in Australia might go gangbusters here and vice versa. So I think overall, if you average it out, they're very similar. But yeah, I don't even know, right? Like luckily I haven't had to change much. Last year I had a very long joke to open my show about Jenny Craig, which I learned halfway through the joke. You guys don't have Jenny Craig. And that was like the opening joke in Bristol. And as I was telling it, I thought, this isn't really going as well as
Oh,
it
no,
usually does. And
yeah.
there was enough Kiwis and Aussies. They went, no, we don't have Jenny Craig here. And the joke really hinges on the name and me meeting someone called Jenny and another person called Craig. And someone else was like, we've got Slimming World. And I thought, well, that's probably not going to work. I wouldn't meet someone called Slimming and another person
I was
called
just
World.
about to
So
say that. Hello, Mr. Slimming. Hello, Mrs. World.
that's the great thing about comedy, though, right? It's a very live response, and people will tell you with their laughter whether it's working or not, and you can kind of figure it out. I mean, working in radio, you probably have to wait for the text machine to absolutely tear you apart. So I don't envy you.
No, yes, we do say this. Sometimes it feels like you're talking to yourself and there's nobody listening, and you have those moments of self-doubt, and then yeah, you'll get a flood of text messages come in, or you might bump into somebody in the street who says, "Oh, I heard that bit that you were doing with so and so," and you go, "Oh,
Yeah.
people are listening. It's okay."
I I used to do a bit of radio and I felt the same way. And you think about the people that text in. Have you ever texted into a radio station? Most people have not. And you have to
No,
think that if you're
exactly.
getting one text, that's probably a representative of 100,000 people.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Um, if you Google your name, what do you
Oh,
think the first thing that comes up is? Because obviously, before I knew we were going to speak, this is what I did. I Googled you. What do you think the
cool.
first thing that comes in when you Google Melanie Bracewell?
Something creepy like feet or something. Um,
Not not
but
quite.
tight or maybe related to cricketers potentially.
That was down there. That I think that was about third or fourth. But the first thing that comes up is your height.
Heights, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I think people get confused because in a lot of shows you're sitting down, and then they'll see me in something like Taskmaster or something, and they see me suddenly standing up next to a Diane with a fellow contestant who's about 5'4", and they think, well, the proportions don't make any sense. Like, what is going on here? So, yes, people meet me in real life, and they are very surprised that I am gargantuan, 6'2".
But you're not really. You're 6'1", aren't you?
Yeah, it's sort of in between 6'1" and 6'2", depending on if I'm wearing shoes or not. But um, yeah, it's not that tall, but I guess being a woman, people are surprised if you're not a little pixie fairy.
Yeah. I do think you should do a bit about, like you say, if you are working with another comedian standing up, literally like being puny little comedian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good plan.
And then it's funny you mentioned about cricketing because obviously you are part of a massive cricketing family as well.
Yes, it's funny. I think people don't fully make the connection. Bracewell isn't a super common name, but I guess it's common enough for people to be surprised to know that I'm related to the cricketing Bracewell, so John Bracewell and Brendan Bracewell. Yeah, it's a weird one. It's like, what are the chances that we kind of pursued? We're in the public eye for very different reasons. No one really knows my dad. I've got my uncle Brendan, my uncle John. Not a lot of no Wikipedia article for Rick Bracewell because he's in IT, so it's
Yeah.
it's less
My dad
exciting.
works in the post office. There's no pages dedicated to him
Oh,
anymore.
my dad hates when I do that joke because he's like, I am actually pretty good at cricket. I just didn't grow up with my brothers. Like he was raised by his auntie, and so he wasn't forced to play cricket. And he goes, well, if I was forced to play cricket when I was an 18-month-old baby, then I would have been amazing. So yeah, he's good. He's good. He just wasn't in the Black Caps.
Well, look, Melanie, thank you so much for talking to me. I really do appreciate it. I'm not sure how long you're going to get to actually have in Portsmouth. I know it's probably only going to be a matter of hours, but I hope you enjoy your time down here. Thank you so much for talking to me. Melanie Bracewell is going to be at the Wedgwood Rooms in Portsmouth on Thursday, the 6th of March. I believe there are literally just a handful of tickets, so make sure you grab them before it sells out. Melanie, enjoy the rest of your time in the UK. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Cheers.